Matthew, from the legal perspective here, what was the ruling from the judges? Ultimately, they think that national security out-trumps, to pardon the pun, what's happening from a freedom of speech perspective.
That's exactly right, Caroline. Looking quickly at the 65-page opinion, this looks like a sweeping loss for TikTok, where the court completely rejected its First Amendment argument and said that national security concerns trump all of those complaints. The court said that this fails both intermediate scrutiny and even strict scrutiny, which almost never works. But the court said, look, the government's interest in national security trumps the First Amendment concerns, no matter what the test is. This is a tough loss for TikTok, and I think it's going to be difficult for TikTok to overturn it.
To that point, you had, what, a 70% chance that TikTok would lose on this particular D.C. court. Their only inning here now is to go to the Supreme Court. What are your probabilities on that, or is it too early to tell?
No, I think that is going to be the option. In theory, they could ask for rehearing at this appeals court, but this decision leaves little hope of that. So I think you're right that the next move is an emergency petition to the Supreme Court to say, justices, hit pause on this January 19th date. This is an important First Amendment case. As Alexandra said, this is sort of novel in American law. And so trying to entice the justices to at least look at it before the date comes up. The thing is, it's difficult to do that, though. It takes 5 justices to vote in support of that. And with this sweeping decision, 2 of the 3 judges who wrote this decision are Republican appointed. One of them is President Trump appointed. And this Supreme Court tends to agree with those judges. I think there's a real possibility the Supreme Court looks at this and says, you know what, the D.C. Circuit got it right. We might not even need to take this up. So there's a chance of that they hit pause and the Supreme Court has to rule on it. But there's also, I think, a better chance the Supreme Court says, no, they got it right. This case is over. Let the ban take effect.
What then, legally speaking, does TikTok do? What does ByteDance do?
Yes. So the question then is, will it do a divestiture? You know, the law gives it a path around an effective ban by selling the service to someone who's not located in China. The problem is that China has said it won't approve a sale of the algorithm. So TikTok's in a bit of a tough spot in that sense. The other big question is, what will President Trump do with this? Will he enforce this law? The enforcement mechanism is the Department of Justice here, and President Trump, in theory, could direct his Department of Justice to say, don't worry about enforcing that one. That would be highly unusual, and the companies that host TikTok would be taking enormous risk. He wouldn't change his mind, but it's at least a possibility.
We don't rule out anything, of course, for the future, and I am interested as to whether you know from behind the scenes, ultimately, what it could look like if they did divest, and legally speaking, how that might have to ultimately look.
Yeah, I mean, there's a big question. I think the biggest question around the divestiture is whether TikTok would, or potential buyers would look at a transaction that doesn't involve the algorithm. And if China won't approve a sale of the algorithm, maybe you're looking at selling, just the users and the platform, but without the secret sauce that makes it work. And so I think you could see the company exploring those sorts of alternatives in the near term.
We will await to see whether indeed it does get pushed onto the Supreme Court. But can you give us a feeling of timing here, Matthew? January the 19th feels incredibly close now. It is one day before the new administration is sworn in. Here we go with the fire alarms again. But what are you thinking in terms of just an extension past January 19th?
Exactly. So what I expect we'll see here in maybe today, maybe in a matter of days, is this emergency petition to the Supreme Court asking the justices to hit pause on that January 19th date. And I think the Supreme Court will take that petition. It will ask for briefs on that leading into January. And then the Supreme Court is either going to say yes or no, probably in mid-January, about whether it will grant this case, take the case, and hit pause on that January 19th date. So that's where the legal action is likely to be in this pushing the justices to hit pause on that January 19th date. And as I said, I kind of think that the justices might say, no, we don't need to step in here. Let's let the law take effect. The D.C. Circuit got it right.